So the first step for etching any copper plate in our ferric chloride mordant bath is I want to make sure that the back of the plate is covered. So this has a wood grain shelving paper on it that keeps it from getting etched on accident. Because what will happen is if I go and put this in the ferric, my lines will get etched, but so will the back of the plate if it's left exposed, and my plate will get thinner and thinner and thinner and won't print as well. It will also make it harder to use the back of the plate if I want to use both sides. Once I'm finished printing this side, I can repurpose this back side, and I won't be able to do that. The next step is I want to make a little tail with duct tape. And this should be in the acid room next to the acid bath. I want it to be about 14 to 16 inches long. And this will let me hang my plate in the ferric so that it's not touching the bottom, and also it gives me something to grab and pull it out. This is our current ferric chloride etching bath. It's also referred to as an Edinburgh etch because it has a little bit of citric acid mixed in with warm water and the ferric chloride. And what the citric acid does is it eats away at the mineral deposits and detritus that's created by the ferric chloride as it etches the copper. If we don't have the citric acid, the bottom of the tank will fill up with a sludge that would prevent plates from getting etched that are touching the sludge. It also makes for a much bigger mess when you're cleaning the tank. So with the citric acid, what it does is it eats away at that filament and keeps the sludge from forming. You'll notice that the top of the tank has a label that says Edinburgh Etch. When working with Edinburgh Etch, I want to make sure I have on gloves and also glasses. The Edinburgh Etch is not technically an acidic reaction when it works on the copper. It won't burn you as acid would, but it is a corrosive salt, and so it is strong irritant. So I don't want it on my skin, I don't want it on my clothes, I don't want it in my eyes. So I'm wearing an apron when I work with Edinburgh Etch. I'm wearing glasses to protect my eyes from little tiny droplets that might get splashed on me, and I'm wearing gloves. So to begin working with the Edinburgh Etch, I want to open the top, and I can do that by just leaning the lid back, and the ferric's inside there. And I can just dunk my plate. I want to make sure that my plate is submerged all the way into the ferric so that it's getting completely etched. And I can just bring that extra duct tape over the edge and put my initials on it. Above the ferric tank is an etching chart made with an old copper plate. So we have our plate here, and then you can see the corresponding etching times and how those etching times change the width and the depth of the line. So the longer the etch, the wider the line will get eventually, and also the deeper the line will get. So you'll have a heavier deposit of ink when you print. And when we do aquatent, you can see how short those etching times are. You know, we have 30 seconds, 1.5 minutes, 2.5, 3.5 minutes to get a specific value of gray in relationship to getting lines that are slightly wider than the mark that you make with the scribe, which is at about 70 or 80 minutes. Use the chart to decide how long you need to etch your plate. You don't need to etch your plate consecutively. You can etch it in 20-minute increments or 30-minute increments as long as your total time reaches the number of minutes that you want to correspond with the width of line that you see in the chart. So my plate has been in the ferric chloride or Edinburgh Etch for about 1 hour and 20 minutes. I want to make sure I have my eye protection on, as well as gloves on each hand, and I'm ready to remove the plate. Another thing I want to have handy is a wad of paper towels, because the ferric is going to drip off the plate, and I don't want to drip it. And you can see where it's been dripped, and then the iron in the ferric chloride has sort of corroded or rusted when exposed to air and turned orange. I want to try to prevent splashes like that from happening, so I'm going to have paper towel. I'm going to untape my plate. Let the extra ferric chloride drip off. So this isn't to wipe the plate, it's just to kind of catch the ferric. And then I'm going to bring it over to the sink and rinse it off with cold water. So I want to make sure I rinse both the front and the back of the plate. Get them nice and clean. And then this paper towel has to go in that red kit can for water-based waste. So now there should be no more ferric chloride or Edinburgh etch on my plate, front or back. And if I know I'm done, I can peel off my backing, but I'm going to wait just in case and check. And one way to check is to take a fingernail and carefully kind of stick it into one of your lines. And if the line is deep enough to grab your fingernail, then it's deep enough to print black as a line. So it's just a double check. I should be able to trust the etching chart that's hanging above the tank, but I always recommend just kind of double checking and making sure those lines are actually there. You can also take your etching needle and kind of probe into one of those lines carefully and see if it grabs the tip of the needle. If it does, then it's deep enough to print black. Use my gloved hands to close the lid because I'm no longer etching. And now I'm ready to clean off the hard ground from this plate and prepare it to print.